G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad Fantasy Cricket Show. I'm Haz, that's Dill, and that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros. Hope everyone's had a great start to the new year and is ready for another big week of BBL action. Thanks as always for tuning in, whether you're watching us live or catching us on the replay on Apple Music or Spotify. It's been a great day of Ashes cricket so far, but our attention now turns to round 10 of the Big Bash, where today we'll preview those matchups. So if anyone is joining us live and has any start-sit questions, please let us know in the comment section and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Before we start to preview round 10, boys, how did we go in round 8 and 9? Dill, we'll start off with you.
Yeah, g'day, Haz, Stu, everyone tuning in. Before I jump into my results, massive shout out to Cal for coming along to the cricket the other night. The Brisbane Heat obviously had a massive game up against the Stars. We had a bit of a Fantasy Bros and GameDay Squad outing, and it was a whole lot of fun. So thanks, Cal, for joining us there. Hopefully the Heat can get it done tonight. Yeah, boys, look, I'm pretty happy that I had that champion win earlier in the season, because since then everything's been going downhill for me, unfortunately. So I think I might just hang my hat on that and just sit back and let you boys share in all the glory, because you guys are doing pretty well at the moment. My classic team in round 8 and 9 were pretty horrible. I couldn't even get past about 90th spot. I had 96th and then 130th, which is just ridiculous. Challenger starting to get a little bit better. Challenger 34th in round 8 and then 15th in round 9. Had a couple of pods in there. And then my champion team outside the 20 in both of those. So it's a bit surprising. My pod team and Challengers actually has me sitting 15th for the season. So it's actually got me closer to that prize card now. I'm actually only one big pod away from 5th spot in Challenger. It's that close between the top 5 and then everyone in that top 20. So I'm pretty keen to have a big one now in Challenger. I've just got to still keep that mindset of it's my pod team, play my pods and hope for the best. But Stu, how did you go, mate? Round 8 and 9 for you.
Yeah, g'day, Dill. G'day, Haz, and thanks for tuning in, everyone, as always. We're talking about football results, right? Because I've had some pretty good back-to-back weeks in Champion and Challenger there. Not so much in cricket, unfortunately. Classic 34th and 74th. Challenger 53rd, 45th. A little bit better in Champion 7th and an 18th, where I'm currently sitting in 6th overall, and I've sort of dropped just outside the top 10 overall there in Challenger. But full steam ahead. Haz, you've probably got a bit more success to report on. I think you were the only one out of us that played a Davey Warner in this previous round. How did you go?
Yeah, it's been a couple pretty good weeks for me. Round 8, I came 21st in Contender, thanks to that pretty handy Mitch Marsh pod that I called out. I got 55th in Classic and 31st in Challenger. And then last round, 68th in Contender. And thanks to that Davey Warner All-Star, who was a late replacement for Finn Allen, I came 3rd in Classic, which was a bit of a surprise because I had quite a few different pods in there. So definitely take that as the best finish so far for the season for me. And I got 33rd in Challenger, which leaves me hanging around just outside the 25th for the season. So going along nicely. It's good to have some success finally and be in that top 3. But Dill, what can our viewers and listeners expect from us today on our round 10 show?
Yeah, mate, talking about our viewers, let's welcome a few in, such as Fife was the first one in here. Good evening, team. G'day, mate. How are you? Mel's Misfits, as always, as well, giving a bit of a shout out. We've got Maxi and Izzy. Callum Stone, the man himself, is thereabouts, as is Coach Stephen. We haven't seen Duffman, though, which is interesting. I thought he might be on the show joining us today. We might have to see how they go. Heading down a little bit, and Cal just said Glenn Maxwell needs to be removed from this front screen. It's triggering him. Yeah, that's fair enough. We might have to remove Glenn Maxwell. Mel's put up that we're representing all the players not playing. I think we've got Smith, we've got the right Tommy Rogers. So we might have to look at changing that up a bit, Stu, in the next few rounds. Yeah, look, as always, we are going to preview the upcoming matches for Big Bash. We'll run through all of the matchups for round 10. We'll discuss our favourite picks in the keeper, batsman, all-rounder and bowler positions. We'll share our consensus team for the round, so you know exactly who we're looking at rolling out. It's not our exact teams, but it's some of our favourite players across the competition. Obviously, when we talk about our players, we talk about diversifying across the 3 competitions that we can play or that we're eligible for. We also have our Bro Down Showdown, as always, where the viewers listeners can win some pretty handy cards to continue rolling out your Oz cricket teams simply by tuning in and letting us know who you think is going to win each and every week. And I think the competition is spotting up there. Don't forget as well, if you are a new user, you're joining us for the first time because you've stumbled across this page, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, but then head across to GameDay Squad, whether that's downloading the app or over on the website. Sign up using the promo code SUMMER, SUMMER, all in caps, and that'll start you off on your GameDay Squad Dynasty with 3x3 player common packs. You'll also get a heap of bronze players as well. So at least you can build your starter and your contender or classic side. As soon as you do that, you're going to start winning cards automatically. Start building your squads over the next season. Maybe the following season, you might be super competitive. You might be in the money, similar to what Haz has done, where he's built his card squad over a certain amount of time, and now he's reaping those rewards. Talking about reaping rewards, Haz, you want to get into the GDS Cup before we get through the round, mate? There's some big matchup in the GDS Cup this round.
Yeah, we've got our GDS Cup Grand Final, which sees the Clive Rose 11 versus Duffman in the big showdown. Duffman, I think, is the one that beat you. So I think you'll probably be cheering him on in the final. Does he go all the way?
I don't know. We've done a little bit with Mighty Hoss or those people that know I'm on Discord, Mighty Hoss or Game Day Society as well. We've done a little bit with them, and I kind of want to see a friend of the show get up and maybe get a little bit of revenge on Duffman for knocking me out. I did try to see if we could get Clive Rose 11 on the show, but unfortunately he just has to be listening because he's got some family over. So no doubt they're sitting around the TV screen watching us along as well.
Geez, I certainly hope he's got his team set before that family gathering for the Cup final, that's for sure. All right, let's get right into it for round 10. As you can see on screen, we have the 3 games to play in round 10. The first one being the Sixers versus the Heat tonight. And as always, when teams come out, we will let you know as soon as we find out the teams, the 11s, and the orders. And we'll have a quick discussion around those players. But before we do that, we'll start to break down each game. So some key stats for each game of the round. So the Sixers versus the Heat is going to be played at Coffs Harbour, which we haven't seen a game at Coffs since January 2024. So, however, since 2019, the average total in the first innings is 169, while the second innings is only 144 runs. We've seen a higher score of 203 scored by the Sixers a few years ago, indicating that it can be a very good batsman wicket. We do expect it to be clear skies. I think there was rain reported earlier this morning, but it looks to have cleared up, so it shouldn't affect the toss or the start time for the game whatsoever. Moving into, some averages for Coffs Harbour. The batsmen average about 33 points per game. Wicket keepers are at 38, all-rounders 43. So it does show that it can favour those batsmen a little bit, and certainly the all-rounders. So you might want to target some of those players for your squads this round. Game 2 is the Strikers versus the Thunder tomorrow night at 6:15 Australian Eastern Standard Times. And once again, we are expecting clear skies. It's actually meant to be a scorcher. It's still meant to be in the low 30s by the time of first ball. So it's going to be pretty warm over in Adelaide tomorrow night. There's some key venue stats. So all player average sits at 32, which is actually the second lowest in the comp so far this season. First innings batting average for all teams is 12.4, which is extremely low. Interesting though, chasing batting average is at 36.8. So there's a big difference there between first and second innings batting averages. While last season, the Strikers allowed an average of 40.5 GDS points to the Thunder players, while the Thunder limited the Strikers to 39.5. So there's not much difference there, only 1 point difference between the Strikers and the Thunder players. And then finally, Game 3 is the Scorchers versus the Renegades on Wednesday night at Optus Stadium. Once again, it's going to be played at 6:15 Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we are expecting clear skies. Some stats for that game. All player average is 34.8, which is on the lower side for the venues. First innings batting average is 21.7, while the chasing batting average sits at 17.8. Scorchers allowed an average of 38 to Renegades players last season, while the Renegades limited the Scorchers to 35. So as always, there is quite a lot of information to digest there, but based on that information, is there a particular game that you're looking to target this round, Stu?
Well, maybe not so much target, but a really interesting stat there comes from Adelaide, that Tuesday night fixture, and spoke about the points scored in the first innings, particularly from the batsmen, and then compared that to the second innings batsmen. And it's quite massive, isn't it? We've seen in the two matches so far that the team that bats first isn't really getting going, and the team that's chasing has been chasing that target down nice and easily without losing too many wickets. So, yeah, first innings batting average of 12.4 versus the chasing batting average of 36.8 is pretty crazy there. So it could be a really, really important bat flip there. Dill, I'll throw this question to you. Is it going to be as simple for coaches just to be flexible, maybe with their third batting slot, and keep their eyes on this bat flip? And if the strikers bowl first, put Lynn in that spot. If the Thunder bowl first, change that to Davey Warner for the chase, since we're seeing all the points scored by the chasing team.
Yeah, it's probably not as simple as that. But I think the simple part of that is that we do need to be flexible. And I guess you're a perfect product of that, where Finn Allen's ruled out mid-round and you've got to make that pivot to another player. I think what you should do going into a game or even into a round is have your pivots ready to go if something does happen. Obviously, we don't have every team listed yet, and we're going to talk about a player a little bit later on that hasn't been named in the squad yet because the squad hasn't been released, but we're assuming he's there. But if he's not, we've got to have that pivot and we've got to be flexible in that. So my advice is to, take a second, have a think about the averages and what that means in terms of the bat flip, but always have that second, third player in the back of your mind so you're not scrambling last minute. There's nothing worse than scrambling last minute and putting in a player that you didn't mean to and you accidentally get a donut for whatever reason. So it's about having those options ready to go just in case something does happen and we're not quite prepared for it. But in saying that, I think, you're right. Something as simple as who wins the bat flip is going to determine whether you play Lynn or Warner, because we do like both of them. Obviously, I like Warner a little bit less because I hate chasing last round's points. But it is going to come down to the toss. But talking about bat wicket keepers, let's get into the preview. Haz, do you want to kick us off with some of our bat wicket keeper options this round?
All right, boys, let's get into our bat wicketkeeper position for round 10, which of course begins tonight in Coffs Harbour with the Heat taking on the Sixers. If you missed last round, we will now be previewing the top 5 averaging players in each position for the round on the screen instead of showing our top picks for the round. We will continue to each choose one player from each position to discuss whether they are on screen or not. So on screen at the top 5 averaging players available for selection this round, you can see we've got Cooper Connolly, who is averaging an amazing 76 points. Matt Renshaw, 61 average. Josh Philippe, who's probably the standout wicketkeeper choice this round, averaging 54. Dave Warner, after one massive score, all of a sudden is now in the top 5 averages for the round at 45. And then Joshy Brown, who has had a couple good games in a row, to average 45 as well. So, boys, who are we looking to target and why? Dill, let's start with you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Just quickly before I do, Ganners has asked a question here about Will Sutherland and some information about batting first versus second. I'm going to come back to that when we look at the all-rounders. And so, Ganners, just remind me about that if we don't touch on it, because I don't have a lot in terms of the differences, but I can give you some stats that might help you a little bit. So, just keep that in mind, Ganners. We'll come back to you, mate. Look, my batsman this week, I'm going to roll with the Heat player, and I'm going to roll with Renshaw again, because he has been rolling along quite nicely to start the season. Ren is currently averaging 40 runs with the bat, which is obviously bolstered by that 102 he had at the Gabba against the Scorchers at the start of the season. But I think he's been pretty consistent. He's had 4 of 6 scores above 30, gaining that all-important 30-run bonus, which, we love to see. That's sort of our benchmark, I guess, for batsmen. If we can get to that 30 runs, we're pretty happy. And then anything on top of that, we're just laughing. Look, but on top of that, he has been entrusted with the ball on more than one occasion, particularly last game against the Stars. He actually had 2 overs. He took a wicket, but really probably should have had a second. I think Wildermuth dropped pretty much a sitter. And I think when we were at the game, we talked again about the potential for some negative points if players drop catches, because we've seen some absolute sitters in the last couple of games that have probably changed matches potentially with the drop catches. So I think having those negatives there might consider or have coaches consider maybe looking elsewhere sometimes as well. But anyway, as a result, we have seen some decent runs scored. We've also seen some decent points put on the board from the bowling aspect for Renners. Look, he's only one of two batsmen that have a positive bowling point average. Obviously, we know Cooper Connolly as a batsman, even though he's really an all-rounder, he's bowling quite nicely as well. Renners is the only other batsman to have a positive bowling average. McSweeney's had a bowl, but he's actually got a negative in that column at the moment. So no other batsman is doing that, which means there's a bit of ceiling there for us. We know that maybe Renners won't produce with the bat as much as we like, then he's potentially got that option with the ball. But the key for me is at the venue tonight, obviously Coffs Harbour, International Sports Stadium. We haven't seen a game there since all the way back in 2019, in 2022 or 2023, I believe. Last season, the game against the Heat and the Sixers was rained out. We didn't get a ball bowled. But since then, we've had since 2019, we've had 4 matches there. And we've seen plenty of success from the spinners. In particular, we've seen blokes like Stephen O'Keefe, Kuhnemann, Todd Murphy, Ash Nagar. These blokes have taken 10 wickets between them in a combined 23 overs at the venue. So there's obviously quite a bit in it for spinners, but there's also been quite a bit in it for batsmen as well in the past. We've obviously seen Steve Smith score his first ever Big Bash ton there, finishing on 101 a couple of seasons ago. The Sixers have been pretty good at shutting down batsmen as well this season. However, their most vulnerable position that they've allowed points in has been that number 3 spot where Renners has been coming out, and we expect him to come out at that number 3 spot again. It's the same spot where Cooper Connolly scored 88 points to start the season in game 1. Look, I'm not saying Renners is as good as Cooper Connolly in terms of that batsman that offers opportunity with the ball, but it's certainly, when we're looking at it, we see that Renners loves to compete in everything, and no doubt he'll want to get that little bit of a buffer on Harper, who seems to be going back and forward for that golden cap with the most runs. So hopefully Renners can get the job done tonight for the Heat and earn back that golden cap.
Yeah, I love that shout. Matt Renshaw looked so good at the game live last week against the Stars, and I know he only got the 40-odd, but it honestly looked like he could have quite easily gone on if he just didn't chip that one to point. And just in the field as well, he was fielding in front of us pretty much the whole game, and he just seemed up and about. He seemed like he was loving cricket. He seemed like he was really enjoying having a bowl as well. The crowd was enticing him to have another go. He's like, well, I'll try. So it seems like he's definitely overtaken McSweeney as that part-time off spinner that they're going to turn to, which obviously is great for our fantasy scoring. So I think we should be targeting him as probably the second best batsman behind Cooper Connolly, because he has that upside there as well, that safe floor if his batting was to potentially not come off. But once again, he looks like he's in such good form, and he's right up there with the run scorers at the moment. Like you said, trying to chase down Sammy Harper for that golden cap. So hopefully Renners can keep that form up. And I think with the inclusion of Nathan McSweeney back in the side, I think those two work extremely well together to steady that middle order if those 2 early wickets fall for the Brisbane Heat. So love that shout. Good to see you back, Stu. It is your turn for your must-target batsman for this week.
Yeah, apologies, boys and viewers. No idea what happened. Computer just decided to turn off. Maybe it's way too hot in this room. I'm sweating, so the computer must be as well. No charging or internet concern. So there you go. Alrighty, batsman. Now, fortunately, this doesn't look like I'm chasing points. Last week's points, like we hate doing, because Chris Lynch scored just the one run in Perth last night. So I'm happy to give him a start in at least one of my teams this round, given he reminded us just how damaging he can be back at home at the Adelaide Oval. He scored that blistering 79 not out off 41 balls, which included 6 fours and 6 sixes. He looked like the Lynn of old. He was smoking the Heat bowlers to all around the park. But yeah, look, there's going to be some massive risk if you do decide to play Chrissy Lynn, given his scores so far this season read 5, 4, 22, that massive 79 not out, and last night's 1. So it might be a tough watch, I think, until maybe he reaches double figures. So can peek around behind the couch or something and then get comfortable once he reaches 10. Hopefully that's the case, because once he does, he'll probably go on and score something nice and decent. His record at the Adelaide Oval is pretty impressive. And obviously, he showed us that the last match there at the Adelaide Oval. He's played there twice this season. But the big difference is when the strikers batted first versus batted second. We spoke before about just how different those stats were for all teams batting first and second. And Lynn's first attempt there, the strikers batted first. He scored 4. The strikers chased when he scored his 79 not out. So I think that presents as a really big key for this fixture, and I'll certainly be keeping an eye on that bat flip and maybe only running him out in maybe my week 50. He's gone past 50 on 5 occasions, which is awesome, but he's been dismissed for a duck twice. His balls per boundary at the ground is 7.67. And for context, Matty Short's is 8.78. And when we see Matty Short as such a massive power hitter, Linny's got him by about a ball and a bit in terms of balls per boundary. As early as Tuesday, I'm probably just hoping that the bat flip goes the right way and Linny can chase again without a bit of pressure setting that total early on.
Yeah, something to consider as well. The Thunder have allowed 42.5 points to all batsmen so far this season, which is the second highest of all teams so far, and a further 60 points to all openers, which is right up there with the most in the competition, which is highlighted by Tim Ward, who absolutely put the Thunder to the sword last game with a 114-point performance for his 90 off 49, while Mitchie Owen also blasted that quick-fire 45 off 18 in their recent matchup. So the Thunder do leak runs to opening batsmen. So Chris Lynn, yes, he might have failed last game, but like you said, Stu, he's back at the Adelaide Oval. He loves batting there with those short square boundaries. Good matchup, great ground, good venue, power hitter. I definitely think he's in at least one or two of my sides again this week. Brings me to my must-play batsman for the week. And I feel like we're watching a bit of a replay of David Warner's season from last year. It's just taken him a little bit longer to get going this time around. Last season, Warner had a relatively slow start despite big expectations surrounding his return to the Big Bash. He scored just 43 runs and averaged just the 27.6 points across his first 3 games before going on an absolute mid-season tear last season, where he scored 86, 49, 50, and 88 in his next 4 innings. That run translated to GDS scores of 108, 68, 65, and 103 to come out an average of 86 during that stretch in the middle of the tournament, where the Thunder went on a bit of a run towards the finals. This season, the slow start was even more obvious, likely due to the fact he hadn't played domestic cricket or any competitions since August, before the start of the Big Bash. Across his first 4 matches, Warner had scored 44 runs at an average of just 12.75 GDS points, leaving coaches frustrated with his inability to put together that decent score to make us all happy. But then, as we know, Warner went kaboom against the Hurricanes in round 9, reminding everyone exactly what he is capable of in T20 cricket. He exploded for a massive 175 GDS points, powered by that 130 runs in an innings that included 11 fours and 9 sixes. Yes, some people might say Warner had some luck during that innings. He was dropped on 26, so it could have easily been a different story. However, we all know that good batsmen make the most of their second opportunity, and geez, did he make the most of it. He put the Canes to the sword in what could be a season-changing knock for David Warner. If last season taught us anything, it's that once Warner finds that form and gets the rust out, he tends to string big performances back together in back-to-back games. So I'm expecting him to want to lead from the front again as the Thunder look to climb off the bottom of the table and push for another unlikely finals appearance.
Yeah, it's making my old blokes rule quite tough, really. I didn't play him last round. I've got his all-star sitting there as well, which just sort of jumps out at me and says, play me this round. Yeah. I just don't know. Look, I think the one big thing for him is that you're right, he didn't have any cricket coming into this. He also had that back injury that I know the first couple of games, we saw him stretching it out a bit on the sideline, but on the bench before he came out to bat. So maybe he's